Did you ever want to be a professional? Of multiple professions? Well then, I have the game for you, Motortown, Behind the Wheel. In this game, you can experience the thrilling life of sub-minimum wage labor, being chased by law enforcement for picking up trash a little too fast, and traffic accidents with incomprehensible beings from outer space. But before we get deep into the gameplay, I have to tell you about the tragic story of South Korea. Or else you wouldn't understand the reason why I'm transporting 80,000 liters of baby oil to a certain individual. In the far future of 2016, alien ants attacked the Earth. But fortunately, Japan rose up and saved planet Earth by making up ultra soldiers called the Earth Defense Force. But for some mysterious reason, the only place they didn't save was South Korea. So at the brink of extinction, South Korea made up some bullshit of their own. Hunters, who beat the living shit out of the ants back to a certain island. And then the greatest hunter of them all soloed the ants' leader to gain some levels. But unfortunately, during the fight, he aura farmed so hard that he flipped South Korea upside down. You, as a rational human being, might ask now, what were the consequences of this battle for the economy? The final battle took place on Jeju Island, the starting location of Motortown. To the south of Jeju Island, you now have the former mainland of South Korea, which is now called Oji Island. Also, Oji Island has been blasted back to the Stone Ages and needs our help to get the economy back up and running. But to do that, you first have to create a character. I of course chose an appearance as similar as possible to my own. The next critical step is that you now spend 40 minutes rebinding all of the controls, so you can start with the tutorial that will gaslight you into borrowing money from financial institutions at ludicrous interest rates. Now that you finished the tutorial, it is time for gameplay, which consists of doing all kinds of vehicle-related jobs. Don't click off the video yet! Just imagine the town play rug you had as a child, where you made up stories with your Hot Wheels and Lego figures. Motortown is kind of like that. And yeah, shit. But as a video game, a medium for true intellectuals. Another description I definitely came up with myself is RuneScape on wheels. Basically, there are these classes called jobs, and by doing those jobs, you level them up and unlock more vehicles and tuning options related to that job. And your end goal is, of course, the pursuit of ever-growing wealth. Because you will never be satisfied, even if you have enough money to buy anything in the world. Enough money that you wouldn't be able to spend it in 1,000 lifetimes. Enough money to stand above any law or country. The numbers lost all its meaning a long time ago. The only thing you know that the numbers have to grow, no matter the cost for the environment or human life. It will never be enough until everything is yours. Doesn't that sound fun? Then let us begin with the driver job. It is the simplest job, but also the hardest one to level. It is required for almost all vehicles and upgrades in the game, and you get EXP for it by using any vehicle and just driving it. To my knowledge, the only other way of getting driver EXP specifically is to pick up hitchhikers. That looks suspiciously similar to yourself. You get quite a bit less driver XP if you use the automatic drive feature, where you basically just turn into an NPC while driving. Great feature for when the throne calls. Just don't think you can skip the entire game with it, cause just like AI, it's fucking stupid and will confidently knock over your 50-ton truck while going in a straight line. You know what else is stupid? Me! Cause there are electric cars in this game, and who would have guessed charging can take a little bit longer than filling up fuel. So I was just sitting there like a moron, not doing anything while the car was charging up. Until I realized I can just get out of the vehicle while it's charging and do something else, like watching the entirety of One Piece. With the filler. Next up is the taxi job, which has quite the lame introduction in the tutorial, cause it shows you how to drive a basic-ass comfort customer from A to B, which means you need to drive very slowly so your passenger doesn't shit himself if you brake slightly too hard. I, as a result, ignored the taxi job for most of my playtime. And speaking of playtime, the whole reason I even picked Motortown for this video was that my last one took quite a long time to make. So Motortown seemed like the perfect little indie game made by a single person. By the way, I just lied. It used to be made by a single person. I think he has assistance with modeling now. But back to taxiing. You can turn almost any vehicle in the game into a taxi by installing a license. So later, when I wanted to get some footage for the taxi job, I realized that comfort passengers weren't the only ones this job had to offer. There are other tags like limo. It's just a special license that you can only install on certain vehicles. Comfort, where you drive as smooth as possible and the vehicle's comfort rating then decides your payout at the end. And the best one, urgent, which is a race against time. And some customers come with multiple tags. I usually make urgent a must tag and then just check which one gives the most amount of money, cause you get a multiplicative payout with the tags if you can fulfill their conditions. The urgent tag is the best one because it turns any drive into a rally stage. Then add comfort, limo, and off-road, and it's quite a fun challenge while your customer constantly pukes in the back seat. Cause in these circles, we don't give a shit about comfort customers. If you want, you can cosplay Initial D by taking urgent and comfort and trying to fulfill both. But I usually just go for the taxi approach. Just unfortunately, this game doesn't have a Peugeot 406 for the perfect reference. I also learned way too late that ambulances give taxi EXP, cause they're not categorized as their own job, so I always thought they're in the police category. They're basically just taxi urgent missions with a reskin where you need to carry your lazy-ass customer to the vehicle before driving them. 10 out of 10 job, would definitely recommend. Next up is busing. It had quite a similar story as the taxi job for me. The tutorial doesn't explain too much, and the job on the surface seems boring as shit. But I later asked on the server I was playing on what you could do with busing, and a certain person answered me that he likes to drive buses, and helped me set up a bus for an off-road route that I definitely didn't steal from YouTube. The next day, when checking the global leaderboards, I noticed that this dude was the #1 bus driver in the world by almost double the amount of levels than the next person. He certainly didn't lie by saying that he likes to drive buses. But coming back to the off-road busing, first of all, it's a great way to make a quick buck. And the bus plus upgrades don't cost that much to be able to do the route. You just gotta figure out the tricks on how to take the bus over certain muddy spots on the way. Otherwise, the game gives you a few basic bus routes that are quite inefficient. But you can make your own bus routes. Just Motortown is currently not that popular in terms of player numbers, so it's not that easy to find a lot of in-depth information online. So the best way for me to figure out a good bus route was to just walk up to the bus passengers standing at the bus stops and ask them where they wanted to go. They usually have multiple destinations and you can just pick out one of them. Then through trial and error, you can basically figure out all kinds of bus routes for cities, off-road and long-distance busing. Up next is the trucking job. And you should put your seatbelt on for this one, cause it's by far the biggest job with the most amount of variety in the game. The basic principle for this job is that you drive some kind of cargo from A to B. As an example, during the winter patch, Santa is back in town, but without any motor. What an idiot. Which means he needs our help, and I want to deliver Christmas presents for Santa. Because nothing says Christmas like a semi-truck pulling up to your home and a Japanese schoolgirl getting out to deliver a sack of presents to you. But Santa can't just pull those presents out of his ass, so you first need to produce toys and then deliver them to him. But to produce toys, you need plastic. So you go to the plastic factory. But for plastic to be produced, they need oil. So you go to the oil refinery. But for them to produce oil, you need to bring them crude oil. That, my friend, is a supply chain that you first have to go through so Ed Sheeran can get his Christmas presents. Also, I lied. You only have to go through this if you play in your own world. If you go on a public server, you can just drive up to Santa's Crack Shack and most likely it's going to be stuffed full with presents for you to deliver. Like the Japan enthusiast that I am, I of course started my trucking journey by buying a K-truck and tuning it perfectly to drive like absolute dog shit. Also, the K in K-truck stands for cat. On the surface, Motortown looks quite simple with its low poly graphics and its basic UI. But once you start doing things, you realize how deep the physics and mechanics actually go. Of course, it's not a crazy simulator with perfect ass hair calculation on the seats for ultimate weight distribution. But in what other game can you adjust your seating position and mirrors while sitting in a SpongeBob truck pulling Pickle Rick filled with 40,000 liters of milk and take drone footage of it to show it in your video? Do you like Tetris? Since this is a YouTube video, I can't hear you. But since your answer was yes, I have great news for you. Cause if the cargo is not too big, then it can be loaded manually. Don't forget to put your strap on the cargo or else it can go flying. You might think now, hold up, so basically you just have to get the biggest truck with the biggest trailer so you can load up more stuff and get more money and EXP? Well, that's only partially true because the payout scales with the carrying capacity of your vehicle. So the smaller vehicles stay relevant in the later stages of the game. Also, you can't just take the biggest truck and trailer anywhere. Some roads might be a little unoptimal for transportation. Let me tell you a few stories about my trucking journey so you understand what I mean. After I did my first few deliveries in my K-truck, I found one delivery was paying quite a bit more than the others. So I absolutely ignored the warning that a 4x4 off-road vehicle would be recommended for this trip, loaded up my little truck and trailer, and went on my way. And without any incidents, I arrived on OG Island, and after a little while I realized the road kind of disappeared. I recently drove through bumfuck nowhere in Poland and a very similar situation occurred to me, that the road just ended. Well, at least in Motortown, I just continued on following the GPS. Then I reached a slight incline which my very off-road capable K-truck kind of struggled with, so I had to abandon my trailer. The rest of the trip though went relatively uneventful. I found some beautiful scenery, got stuck on a wooden bridge cause my little truck was so small and low that I couldn't clear the planks. But then, in the middle of the night, my worst opponent yet appeared. A wooden bridge that my truck's track was not wide enough to cross. So I basically filmed my own Top Gear special trying to cross that bridge as slow as possible, millimeter by millimeter. After I crossed it, I celebrated, since that was the hardest part of the trip. And then the second bridge hit my K-truck, and let's say it went almost according to plan. Even when I arrived in the town of delivery, the pain wasn't over, cause I couldn't even make it up the last slope, since these Neanderthals didn't invent any roads yet. So I took a little detour and finished my first off-road delivery. This was a single delivery of cheese, and it only took me 2 hours to complete. You know, when you think about a driving game, you don't really think about the difficulty, do you? But Motortown can actually offer proper difficulty if you, for example, try to convert a non-off-road vehicle to go off-road. You still don't get any all-wheel drive or a winch, but they have huge capacities, so if you load them up heavily, it is still possible to do the routes. You just have to learn the ways of the off-road adventures. There was also this one time where I wanted to do a meat box delivery into the jungle, so I can check out the shortcut you can take for that route. I even got banned from a server for stealing all their meat and leaving, so I can show it off in this video. I of course don't want to spoil you everything you can do with trucking, but let me just show you the amount of progression you have in liquid transports alone. You start out with a little tiny tanker any vehicle can pull. Then you get to the trucks that have a tanker on the back who get progressively bigger. Then you get to the semi-trailers who also get bigger and bigger. Then you get to the road trains. But since the only limit this game has is the length of your road train, 35 meters to be exact, you can use a shorter truck, put 2 trailers from the road train, and then the huge one that's usually used as a solo trailer. And that's how you get the biggest liquid carrying capacity in this game. 80,000 liters. Use it wisely. Also, I'm not done talking about transporting liquids. When I first got into semi-trucking, I was transporting fuel around with a rented truck. Oh yeah, another tip I can give you is to never use those company vehicles that stand around. Just go to the vehicle store, and if you can't afford the vehicle, just rent it. So you won't have to share your profits with other greedy capitalists. So yeah, semi-trucking fuel around. Since the vehicle was rented, it wasn't upgraded at all, and struggled a bit with the heavy load. And I was playing on a server, and I saw some people speed by me and got a little distracted and activated the autopilot in an unprofessional way and caused the smallest ecological disaster in oil corporation history. But fortunately, 2 strong men with the biggest rescue vehicle in the game were close by, so they helped me back up and towed back me, my trailer and my truck to the next repair shop. I thanked them and fell over again. Got help again, and then had half the server help me back up my giant dump truck of an ass into a construction site. Because for deliveries, the trailer has to be on the point, not the truck. Also, you can automate deliveries and bus trips, cause you can create a company and have up to 15 vehicles doing routes for you that you set up for them. I mentioned earlier that my little K-truck was not very well tuned for off-roading. Well, you can tune any vehicle for any purpose in this game. My K-truck, for example, went from stock to dog shit to street transport to top speed running to drag racing and then to drifting. Certain vehicles don't have any or very little options in terms of add-on and utility parts. That's usually because they are Unity asset store models. The basic rule of thumb is if the vehicle has SCM or ZHC written on it somewhere, you can expect a nice amount of detail and customization options from it. And even if it doesn't, there's still the add-on mechanic where you can add all kinds of lights and other bullshit to your car. And some people get really creative with it. For example, my Ford Focus doesn't have any add-on options, but someone was creative enough to make a front splitter and side skirt out of light bars. Another way you can get creative is with liveries. A lot of people get even a little bit too creative with them. The detail difference is also seen in the wheels, because the ones that came out with more recently released vehicles are recolorable, the older ones aren't. But the biggest difference is that recently added cars actually have a functioning trunk. My only problem with the tuning system is that nothing is explained, and if someone is not too much of a technical person, they could get quite confused, because biggest number doesn't just automatically mean best. For example, I once put a V12 in the K-truck, and it is the best engine you can put in a small vehicle, but let's say it made the drive interestingly. And the fuel ran out like every 2 minutes. Now we come to the next job, which is races. It's, in my opinion, the weakest job in the game if you don't have friends or randoms to race with. You can set up events like Capture the Flag, which are insanely fun, but just grinding for racer EXP, which is needed for some vehicles and upgrades like the normal ambulance, is quite tedious, because you just drive around a few different tracks over and over and over. The other way of getting racer EXP is to pull some fat drifts, but that's it. The most fun racing type for me, drag racing, doesn't give any race EXP, but it's still quite fun, especially if you do it in some goofy-ass vehicle against unexpected opponents. My favorite type of race IRL is of course Formula 1, closely followed by White P. There is a Formula car in the game, but I don't think it comes close to the feeling of driving a proper F1 car, unfortunately. A suggestion of mine would be to maybe add close calls of driving past fast NPCs or top speedruns giving race XP as well. How fast can I get this thing? 345? Oh god! Hilfe! I went to space. And of course, drag runs. So it doesn't feel a shit to level racism for people who don't chase every single millisecond. Up next, we have the Wrecker job. It's my favorite job in the game, and let me explain why. It consists of 3 parts. The first one is also the one you learn to do in the tutorial. You rescue NPC vehicles scattered all over the map. Cars, trucks, trailers, all kinds of vehicles in all kinds of places. You winch them out, hook them up, and then deliver them to the closest workshop. Then the second one is trucking with extra steps, where you deliver new vehicles. Basically, you try to fit as many vehicles as possible onto your trailer, and you can spend way too much time trying to min-max this, and then transport them while trying not to damage them on the way, by driving them through the exact same asphalt waves and not slowing down every single time. There are of course timed and damageable deliveries in the trucking job as well, but only during car transport I ever heard the sentence of Optimus Prime on his way to deliver his children of minis. Just this type of transport has a huge issue, where the amount of money you get is scaled terribly. Why does a mini give me the same amount of money as a giant truck with a trailer attached? Please, Mr. Dev, if you see this, make it so the payout scales not only with the distance of the delivery, but also the size and weight of the vehicle, so you don't have to always sit there respawning the vehicles for ages until you get a tiny ass car for a long distance delivery. And the final part, and my favorite of them all, is to rescue other players during online play. You don't get any XP or money for it, but you get respect and gratitude. This is also one reason why I think this game is such a great MMO, because even the angriest driver turns into a friend if you pull his ass out of a ditch. Of course, you can also do a few shenanigans with those vehicles. And now we come to the last major job, the police. It varies a lot from server to server if you can be a policeman and what you are allowed to do as one, but my in-game experience with law enforcement was usually quite shit. For example, a police car crashed a pickup truck into my truck by accident, so I got out a rescue vehicle to unflip him. Then, another policeman on a motorcycle crashes into my truck and gives me a warning for disturbing my work. Another time, I was delivering 100 tons of milk, don't ask me why, and some police dude just laid out a tire puncture trap on the road his suspect and me were driving on. Usually, it should just act as a speed bump for the non-suspects, but for some reason, it sent my truck and trailers to fucking space. But yeah, during offline play, there's basically just patrolling in your police car, and I know there are NPC chases as well, but I never found someone to chase, so I can't tell you much about it. But what I can tell you about is the sound of this game. First of all, you have access to internet radio. Just I don't think you can import your own stations, so you will have to choose from the pre-selected ones. I just wish there was an option to toggle that the radio only plays within the vehicles. Though I guess you could just say your character is wearing earpods. I just found it weird because you have the option to muffle the sound inside the cabin. The other sounds are all on point for me. Rain sounds nice and relaxing. Engines can get loud as hell when you stress them. Just sometimes random NPCs say things and it spooks me every single time when you just drive somewhere and someone goes, "Hello!" Now we get to some other random jobs that don't have their own designation, but I still wanted to mention, like firefighter. I didn't mention earlier during the record part that the crashed vehicles can also catch on fire, so you would first need to extinguish them before rescuing them. There are also wildfires, but I gotta be honest, it felt very boring to fight them, but I'm pretty sure since this job just got added into the game, it will get adjusted over time. There's also a forklift, but you can unfortunately only load up steel coils with it. I wish we could just get a multi-purpose forklift so we could load up all kinds of cargo manually and not just small boxes. There are also motorcycles, so the ambulance job has something to do. I really think at some point the dev should add farming as a job, cause there is a lot of farming equipment standing around the map, but it's not usable. But driving a combine harvester or tractor and then making the hay or corn into some other products and then transporting them from your farm could be quite fun. And my last suggestion would be, I would love to see some kind of construction job, like a digger or crane, since there are moving diggers on the map already. And the rescue vehicles also already have a crane on top. Now that you know what you can do in this game, let's talk about where you can do it. Because the map is very nice. You have your cities that are very detailed and have all kinds of buildings. And good thing this game has a massive dev team of one dude, cause the Pokemon Company, which is only the highest grossing media franchise in the world, could never afford such details in their games. I just wish there was like one really big city, but I guess that would take a shit ton of work and time to actually pull off. Then you have the beautiful countryside with a lush greenery and farms and the white abyss. There is no ocean texture yet, but the rivers look great. The off-road and on-road racetracks, the harbors, the, in my opinion, best looking place of them all, the jungle, the spooky Diddler Mansion, where you can get lots of different outfits during the Halloween patch, by the way, the mountains and canyons, the desert, like all of these locations just have this cozy and free vibe to them. It would be cool if there were a few pedestrians walking on the sidewalks, so the cities would feel a little bit more alive, cause with the exceptions of bus, taxi and hitchhike passengers, you don't really see anyone. Or add a few spectators at certain times on the racetracks, cause all of the stands are there, just they're all empty. Or have some animals just walk through the jungle. Would add quite a bit of atmosphere, I think. To be honest, I'm not an expert, but this game, even with its low poly graphics, just has such a good look to it. Even though the poly count might be low, you still need good hardware if you want to run it at max settings. But even if you don't, you can just turn the effects a bit down and it will even run on a toaster. I'm also kind of hesitant to say too much about the map because the thing is, this dude just keeps adding new shit every month. Now it is time to make a decision. Because there's actually two different games inside Motortown. Either you play offline, which just means you play in your own world either by yourself or with your friends, or you play on a public server. The difference is that offline, you will start in a basically empty world, where most companies and places don't have anything for you to do or deliver, because you first have to bring them stuff so they can produce stuff that you can then bring to other places for them to produce even more stuff. Housing is also different because in your world, just like in real life, you can't afford shit. Too bad, you should have chosen to be born on an earlier patch. I am of course Yonkling. You can just buy land and put your house or garage there and customize it to your liking with furniture and other items. On a public server, you will have to rent the place, and if you don't pay, it will be deleted. But most likely there won't be any spots to rent anyways, and you will just interact with the houses as a quick travel point. Also, Motortown's performance and desync can be quite bad on public servers depending on how many people are currently online. There are more differences between offline and public play, but in short, if you want to build up your own world alone or with friends, you should go for offline play, but if you would rather play an MMO-CARPG where everything is ready for you to do from the start and you want to interact with other players and all kinds of events or randomly in the overworld, then you should go for online play. Also, I just lied again to you to keep you on your toes. You don't have to decide because you can use the same character offline and online and all your vehicles and money carry over. Since I'm just constantly glazing this game, I also have to talk about a few things I would like to see get changed. 1. Give us a backpack or something. The inventory space of 5 is just too limiting. 2. A ranking system for the uploaded vehicle setups and have those in subcategories of parts and visuals. 3. Some type of way to see the weight of the vehicle and axles while carrying the stuff on the road. 4. Have some GPS tracker that can get our 0 to 100, 100 to 200 times and brake distance. 5. Some way to see the top speed of our final drive ratio while in the workshop, without having to drive out to check it every time you change it. 6. Expand the Motorpedia so we can see what parts you could put on a vehicle without having to buy it, like the extra fuel tanks and cargo boxes. And finally 7. Increase the grip of like all the vehicles in the game, especially on the trucks, because it feels kind of weird carrying 150 tons of cargo and drifting around like you're driving on ice. If you look up Motortown on Steam, you will actually get 2 results. The main game, which is currently in early access, and a free demo version for trying out the game, before inevitably buying it and losing yourself in addiction. Also, this game is only between 10 and 20 bucks depending on the region and discounts. Conclusion. This game is for a very specific person, and that person is me. Because this was the hardest video that I ever made. Not because of some complex research I had to do or challenge I had to face. No, it's cause I'm addicted to this game, and when I work on this video, I get the urge to play Motortown. This piece of software is video gamified quack cocainium, and just like drugs, this game made me absolutely ape-brained. I have never played Among Us, but I have experienced all the memes about pattern recognition, and Motortown is my personal Among Us brain rot. Every time I see a truck now that resembles anything close to Motortown, my brain uses its 86 billion neurons to shit out Motortown reference. It got so bad, I even thought about buying one of those Hall Effect Switch keyboards just so I can have the benefit of being able to control my throttle and brake input without using something like a controller, since my hands instantly start to sweat like a waterfall the second I hold a controller. But fortunately, I have a natural defense system against making irresponsible financial decisions called being poor. Anyways, if you have easily addictive tendencies, I highly recommend you this game.